This is the third time I've had a go at producing this podcast. The reason that it's proving difficult for me is that there's so much to say and I need to squeeze it into a relatively short space of time. But anyway, the friendly antinatalist suggested that maybe I should do something on atheism. Well, I want to expand that a little bit. It isn't really just about atheism, it's about superstition in general versus reason. As you can see, I've got a quote here from Spinoza and his theological political treatise, which during the time of Spinoza, if you owned one of these, you could very well have found yourself hung, drawn and quartered. It was so much a prohibited document. But Spinoza, in his usual way, hits the nail right on the head, and he says, "Men would never be superstitious if they could govern all their circumstances by set rules, or if they were always favoured by fortune. But being frequently driven into straits where rules are useless, and being often kept fluctuating pitiably between hope and fear, by the uncertainty of fortune's greedily coveted favours, they are consequently, for the most part, very prone to credulity." So what he's saying is that if the life of people in general was totally predictable, involved no pain, there was no death, there was no suffering, then no one would be interested in superstitions, including religion. No one. And in fact, if you want real proof of this, then you look at the degeneration of the Christian church. And the most recent manifestation of this is the church of abundance. Basically, you pray to Jesus or God to get stuff. And it's a sad fact that when times become difficult, more and more people turn to religion as a source of some kind of comfort. Of course, reason is the exact opposite of this, and it's an irony, really, that superstition creates suffering, as you'll see shortly in the next slide that I've got. Reason has been our only friend in our escape from poverty and suffering and all the things that primitive men used to suffer from. So let me go to this next slide. Reason versus superstition. So you can see I've got two lists. On the one hand, and remember this, please remember this, religion and superstition has done absolutely nothing to further the aims of humanity or you individually. The only thing that took us out of the caves, from being preyed upon by wild beasts, from infestations by ticks and lice and fleas, from continual toothache, from seeing our children die at the age of 4 or 5 years old, from seeing our partners, our wife may be dying from childbirth, and on and on and on, endless suffering. The only thing that has taken us out of that is reason. Religion has done nothing to take us out of those situations. And in fact, religion has hampered progress at various times in our history. So the first point there, the only thing that has taken us out of the caves is reason. And yet today, with the rise of populism, particularly in the UK and the United States, we seem to be abandoning reason. And that's a bad, bad thing. God knows where it will end. Using the word God. Anyway, so let's go to the next one. Now, the natural state of man is to exercise his or her power. Again, I could spend a long time on this, but basically every individual is born with a certain power, certain intelligence, certain physical power, whatever. In earlier times, if you were a powerful male, then you could probably go and club a few people over the head and steal their food and all the rest of it. These days, it tends to be more cunning and deceit, so the power of the intellect that gives people an edge over other people. If there were no laws and no state, this is what would be happening all the time. There would be chaos, massive suffering. And so, at various times, the people have decided to use reason to try and control how people behave. And they've done this through creating a state, and within that state, creating laws. Why would people do that? Well, someone once said to me, anyone in power is automatically a criminal. So it doesn't really matter whether you call it a government or the mob or whatever. The people at the top need order down below so that the minions can produce wealth for them. It's just the way it works. But in order to get that structure, we need a state and we need laws. If we had no law banning murder, then there would be murder every day in your neighborhood. So, thank goodness for reason, although it's applied to essentially serve the needs of the powerful. Nonetheless, it makes life more tolerable for us. It has given us understanding, and that understanding has served us very well. It's taken us out of the caves, as I mentioned. But more than that, men have, for whatever reason, a desire to understand, or at least some men do. So let me talk about this for a moment. Most people have enough intelligence to serve their will to life, their survival instinct. So they know how to get a job, they know how to reproduce, they know how to make things comfortable and afford medicine and that kind of thing. That's enough intelligence to serve the needs of the will to life. The will to life is a force in all living creatures. I could get carried away on that sort of topic, but I'm not going to. But anyway, other people have intelligence that goes beyond merely this need to survive. They're interested in what's around them. They take pleasure from understanding it. So reason has given us the pleasure of understanding. Science, which has proved to be very, very useful, and philosophy, which is very, very useful at a personal level, if you can be bothered to make the effort. Finally, reason has mitigated the pain of existence. So if you go for an operation these days, they don't just give you half a bottle of whiskey, but you still can feel when they stick the knife in and pull half your intestines out. You get an anesthetic. When you go to the dentist, you get an anesthetic. If you have a bad headache, then you can take painkillers. If you suffer with skin irritations, maybe you can take an antihistamine, and so on and so forth. Only reason has allowed us to mitigate the pain of existence to some extent. So really we should be creating a God called reason and bowing down before it, because that is the only thing that has bestowed benefits upon mankind. Anyway, let's go to superstition. Spinoza, and I sort of disagree with him a bit here, said that religion gave us at least some kind of moral law. Not for the thinking man, but for the masses. Because the masses needed to believe in some code of behavior, and they got that from religion. Well, maybe, maybe not. But overall, not very much really there from superstition. Psychological comfort, well, as Spinoza says, people turn to superstition when times are hard. Does it really give them any comfort? Well, in actual fact, they'd get more comfort from applying their reason to their situation. But, that's the hard thing. The easy thing to do is to implore some deity or some power that you believe in to make things better for you. I knew a girl once who was a devout Christian. She was in dire circumstances. She prayed and prayed and prayed, nothing got better. The emotional distress for her that her prayer wasn't working was palpable. So actually, religion and other superstitions can bring pain as well as comfort. But of course, religion has brought religious wars and persecutions. Just millions and millions of people died horrible deaths in various wars, torture chambers, and so on, in the name of religion. Religion and superstition inhibited medicine because until a few hundred years ago, the religious authorities had it that if people were ill, it was because of bad spirits or demons or something like that, and only the priest could sort it out. And so the progress of medicine was inhibited for hundreds of years because of those stupid priests and bishops who were desperate to hang on to their power. It inhibited science. Everybody knows that Galileo was slapped in prison because he said the earth went round the sun. It created a new ruling class, the priests and the bishops. These people did very well out of that, thank you. It diverted the attention of the poor, so they didn't think sensibly about their situation. They just implored some supernatural being to sort things out for them. It created psychological pain because it set up standards that people were supposed to adhere to. And the idea of sin is just a wicked, wicked thing. It caused more moral suffering than anything else. And it's created confusion. So, astrology. I don't know if there's any truth in astrology or not. I'm not a closed-minded person, but I see in the history of mankind, has astrology helped us in any kind of way? I can't see it. I can't see that it has. And there's no reason applied to astrology. So, let me get on to atheism proper. I've got one more slide to show, but I'm not going to show it just yet. Atheism, as far as I'm concerned, is just belief in a God is just another form of superstition. I understand why people do it. They do it because they want to feel better. And they want someone who is powerful to be on their side. But actually, none of it works, and it's likely to cause more pain than pleasure. So the atheist, for me, is not someone who just doesn't believe in God. They don't believe in any mumbo-jumbo that cannot be explained through reason. And believe me, you don't need mumbo-jumbo to make the world interesting. The world is more than enough. There's more than enough in there to engage you. Have you ever heard of the problem of non-locality? Just to give an example. It happens that two atomic particles that have interacted in some way and then separate are linked forever. And even if one of the particles was at the other end of the universe, if the particle in your lab here on Earth flipped from positive spin to negative spin, as I describe it, that particle that might be trillions and billions of light years away also flips instantaneously. Nobody understands it. It's weird. In fact, I think Einstein called it weird. Anyway, but that requires some reason and some studying and some application. And of course, people are lazy and they don't want to do that, so they just believe some mumbo-jumbo that somebody's told them or that they read in a book. So atheism for me is just an antidote to superstition. And so a personal God, a being that's created stuff, demons that make you ill. It's all the same kind of stuff to me. And as such, atheism is, in the strict definition of absence of belief in a deity, is only just part of a wide spectrum of nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Well, sorry, the belief in a deity is just part of the nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, as I've indicated, sticking to reason, which is your only anchor in this life, just do not undervalue your reason. It's the only rudder that you have got to steer in this life. So anyway, here's a quote by Einstein. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. He to whom the emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. So being an atheist, in the sense that you do not believe any superstitious nonsense, doesn't mean that you're emotionally dead. Quite the opposite. If someone has the persistence and the intelligence to read about the world as we now understand it, he will, or she will, stand in awe at this weird, unbelievably complex and strange universe that we live in. And if you study Kant, for example, you will marvel that what we consider to be out there is actually inside you. That's another story. I'm not going to go there. Anyway, I'm just going to finish with a quote from someone I knew, a lady called Rena Hans, who knew Gurdjieff. And she said, "A question is life, and an answer is death. People who indulge in superstition, religion being one of those superstitions, basically are killing all the questions. And when they kill the questions, they effectively die. Certainty is death. If you have no certainty, if you have certainty, you have no questions. Questions motivate, they bring energy. And the more unanswered questions you can live with, the more alive you are. But people feel uncomfortable with that. They don't like it. Why don't they like it? Because, generally speaking, we don't like uncertainty. But remember that a question is life. Ask yourself questions. And if you get answers, make sure you ask even more questions, because actually what happens is when you get an answer to one question, that will raise a whole pile of other questions. Anyway, thank you to the friendly Antinatalist for suggesting that. And I've got it right this time. Third time lucky, as they say.